This is the Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is Jennifer Tibidow from JMT Speaks. She speaks about extinguishing burnout, and we're going to talk about burnout. I feel like it's a great time of year to talk about it here at the end of the year. You might be army crawling your way to the end of the year, and you're feeling a little burnout. It's time to rest, recharge, and rediscover the power of play. That's what this show is all about. If you want to take a playfulness quiz or have more fun, flow, fulfillment in your life, go to playfulhumans.com. And here we go. Let's do it. Don't wait for tomorrow. Keep chasing the sunshine. One more woohoo. All right, Jennifer, we like to start with the joke of the week on the Playful Humans podcast. The joke of the week this week is brought to you by shopping centers. If you've seen one shopping center, you've seen them all. My official joke of the week is, what do you call a psychic little person who has escaped from prison?
Ooh, I don't know.
A small, medium, at large.
Love it. That's a good one.
Do you
I
have
feel a lot
joke
of pressure.
for us? Yeah.
All right, I got one for you. What does the football coach say to a vending machine?
Ooh, I don't know.
Hey, give me my quarterback.
That's right. We're all looking for quarterback. I saw that one coming.
It's cheesy, but it's a good
great
one.
way to get us started, for sure. I just like the playful attitude. Let us know that we're not going to be too serious here. And I feel like we can start with that with you because you have this nice library behind you. And I feel like in the legal profession, people are very much known for their libraries and stuff. So can you start with maybe a little bit about your background and how you ran into burnout and started becoming a burnout expert?
Yeah, well, thank you, Mike. And let me start by saying the library behind me has maybe half a shelf of like quote unquote adult books, but everything else is bright and colorful because it's all books for my 7-year-old son. But there are some law books back there, but otherwise it's a little bit of a mishmash. I am an attorney, as you said. So I'm going to hijack the question a little bit because I want to, if I can, pay you a compliment, if that's okay.
No, not at all.
So
yes,
here
please.
it goes. Here's the compliment. It's a big thank you. I'm so appreciative because I met you at a time in my life and heard about you and your movement and your work when I literally had a functional medicine expert basically take one look at me and say, you need to have more fun. You need to really prioritize fun in your life. And I was seeing him about a chronic condition, not related to like lack of funitis or something like that, although I probably have it.
Yeah.
So I really want to thank you because I told you that. And then I said, oh, I'm in my own head. I'm such a type A. I'm such a lawyer. I'm thinking, what is fun? What is play? What does that mean? If I like to tell stories or read, is that fun? If other people don't think it's fun, do I have to create something? Does it have to be good? And you were like, no. Like, just take a deep breath. Don't get inside your own head. If you enjoy it, it's fun. If you're having like a flow moment and you're playing, that's all good. So thank you for that. And I wanted to start by telling you that.
Well, awesome. I appreciate that. And I think it's not unusual, right? That for high performers and things, a lot of time we get a lot of pressure. We get in our head about having to monetize something, or how about getting good grades on it or good reviews and other things. And I mentioned you're hosting a podcast, you're writing creative stories, you're doing all these kinds of cool things. And I was like, sounds a lot like play to me.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel that way for you. And I think a lot of people feel that. But the earlier part of your story is really where I'd like to start there, because there's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score. And sometimes a lot of the physical things that we're experiencing are because of emotional issues.
Yes.
And a lot of people can't realize that, or they don't connect the dots that the lower back pain or the headaches or the digestive issues and things are not because of physical symptoms or causes. They're emotional ones, and they're because you're carrying around too much stress. Is that what you've discovered, I'm assuming? And
Yeah,
what do you?
yeah. Dr. Mike here, right on right on the target. I mean, for me, I was diagnosed with this condition called lymphedema. It just causes chronic swelling in my foot because of a clog in my lymphatics. So when I went to see the functional medicine expert, he taught me basically your mind, body, and spirit are all connected. If you think of them as like a triune of well-being, like this, is this an isosceles triangle? Maybe, right? And
We'll
one
go with it.
side gets out of whack, then if your spirit and your mind aren't right, it's going to impact your health. And for me, he taught me that specific organs are connected to specific feelings and emotions, and that can really have physical manifestations. And then, really, to get back to the question that you asked me, and I hijacked. I definitely saw physical manifestations of stress when I was in the middle of burnout, when I used to practice law at a firm. And if you can believe it, never really put it together in a way. I just kind of thought that was the norm, to always feel stressed out and anxious, and it was too thin and all of the things because of what the overwork was doing to my body. So you're right on target.
Well, and I think it's because we can see it in ourselves too. That I think for me, there's some easy ones that my uh, weight, my physical weight, is proportional to the amount of stress that I'm under at any given
Yeah.
time. So the higher the stress, the higher the weight. Some people have the opposite problem, which I would love to have. I'll trade anybody for a couple of months on that one, but. It's interesting because of all these synergistic benefits or causes. I feel like it's a spiral up or down. That when you're more playful, when you're having more fun, good things happen. You start smiling more, which means you're more approachable from other people. Then you start having healthier relationships. Then you get
Yeah.
opportunities, and then you get more money, and then you get less stress, and then you get like healthier, and you're moving your body more, and all kinds of other things, and it really goes upwards. The opposite is also true, though. When you get stressed, you're walking around angry, scowled, and tense, and nobody wants to be with that. So then you feel alone and less helpful, and you get more stressed, and then you start doing other things. Then that stress eats up on your physical health and body, and so then you're experiencing pain as well as stress, and now you're doubling down on that, and it can go that way too. So
Yeah.
in your research and what you found out about burnout and extinguishing it, what are the best ways to maybe stop that cycle and get it going the other way?
Honestly, I think for someone who is an overachiever, a type A, or a perfectionist, there's the common mistake of equating your work with your worth as a
Mhm.
person. So you think, I have to be achieving, achieving, achieving. I have to be doing all the things. Everything has to be perfect because that means that I have value as a human being. And the the part that I think is connected to play is when you're so focused on perfectionism and that end result, you never allow yourself to take a break and to just sit down, to just color. I know you like Legos, right? Whatever
Mhm.
it is that you do for fun to get into that flow and playful sense, you're not going to prioritize it because you're always worried about that result, because that's what makes you feel worthy. Not that, you sketched this great picture or you built this really cool, Lego of the Friends coffee shop, Central Park, whatever it is. So I think for me, that first step of trying to separate your worth as a human being from your work, and by the way, your identity, I should say, is a huge, huge step, because it's counterintuitive to think if I just take a break, if I just allow myself to play, I will recharge my batteries and I will actually deliver a better work product and feel good about myself. So I
I
think
want to
that's
double
all
down on
connected.
that and ask you
Yeah.
more about that specifically. I know, people say things like law school and medical school and things like that, where people are really burning themselves out and they're really going hard. And sometimes even after that for years and stuff, you're trying to build a business or a practice and other things that, um, for me, I have directly noticed that. I've always felt as like I'm an ambivert, that if I do too much extroverted stuff, too many podcast speaking events and stuff, I'll just come home and I'll crash and I'll be like a zombie and be like, I just need to, build
Yeah.
a Lego, read a book, like
Yeah.
write a computer program or something that is like intellectual and low energy. And then the same thing is also true on the opposite side, that I have this like tank of, if I'm doing really hard focused intellectual work, I'm like, okay, I got to go out and just like run around the building or something. I'm like a toddler that's been
Yeah.
cooped up too
Yeah.
long. So I've always kind of realized that if I keep these tanks balanced, I can be much more sustainable. And I heard this term recently called human sustainability. And I think it
Hmm.
makes a lot of sense in our work and in our companies and stuff. Like, oh, we can't just burn out this resource until it is totally
Yeah.
extinguished, and then hopefully take a vacation to recharge or something, or change jobs and have a midlife crisis. Like, we need to work
Right.
on something that is
Right.
more sustainable in our work. What would you say, for those high performers and stuff? Have you found evidence in research or just anecdotally for yourself that when you do take these breaks, when you do de-stress and things, that it actually creates higher output, not lower output?
I don't have research on that, but I gotta tell you from my own experience, without a doubt, because if you start thinking about, for example, something you said about, coming home and recharging, think of athletes, right? Like they
Yeah.
train so hard and then they take a break. So in a way, work, life, it really is a sprint and not a marathon, because you're going to work really, 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 really hard. And then you're going to stop and you're going to recover. And think of, think of athletes who do the same thing. So for me, I found, for example, if I spend a day where I'm in a great state of flow, if I'm working really, really hard and time passes and I've, I don't know, written a bunch on my blog, or I've prepared a new signature talk, and then I'm tired, I can then go and like rest and relax, recharge my batteries, and then repeat that cycle. It makes a big difference than just forcing yourself to keep working and keep working. And it's like you're a glutton for punishment. So I think if you take that athlete's mindset, I think that helps too.
Yeah, I love that idea of top performance for them as well. Especially, I think like the NFL is probably one of the more most and least sustainable activities for
Right,
the amount of
right,
violence that they have. They
right,
can't do that every
right.
day,
No.
right? There's no way. So they're practicing 6 days to perform really well at their best for a few hours. And I think
Yeah.
Olympic athletes are kind of the same way, where they're like, they're not going to go do a massive ski jump every single day and get on the edge of like destroying their body. They're going to have to do training and resting, and then they're going to manage all of that so that they're at their peak performance when they need to be at their peak performance. And I think another analogy I like to give is like the Superman and Clark Kent.
I like
It's like
that.
Superman needs Clark Kent. He needs time where he's
Yeah.
not pressure and he's not saving the world, and he can just be a bumbling idiot, reporter and need glasses and stuff, because
Yeah.
you can't be on all of the time.
No, you can't. And I
But
think
Clark
it's
Kent needs Superman too. You can't hide those superpowers and just,
right.
zone out the whole time either. You got to spend time in both personas.
No, for sure. And I think there's something to be said when you actually do unwind, that you're, for something like you or I do with creativity, that's when you get your ideas, is when you
Yeah.
actually stop and you play and you let your mind wander. I think it's kind of like you get to Google your own brain in a way, and kind of like, you do your best thinking in the shower, right? When you're not trying.
Mhm.
I think that's a huge component of actually allowing yourself to take that break.
So tell me more about how you've designed it now. So I think a lot of people can relate to running into that wall and realizing that what you're doing is not sustainable. How have you
Yeah.
designed a better life career for yourself now? What does that look like? And what are you having the most fun doing?
Yeah, so thanks for asking. I got to say, I'm definitely a work in progress. So I know that old habits die hard, but honestly, when I reached the point in my career of burnout, I would have denied vehemently that I was burnt out, because I didn't understand what burnout was. All I knew was that I wanted to make this career change. And by the way, I thought that burnout meant I couldn't hack it. like that I couldn't
Mm.
hack being a lawyer being a partner at this firm anymore. But instead, it really was this realization that I became very cynical. I became very negative, and I'm not that type of person. I frankly didn't like myself. So I made the decision to leave and change gears in my career. I now work at Thomson Reuters Practical Law. So I work remotely. I write resources and legal know-how to help other lawyers work smarter and more efficiently. And that's my day job. And then I have my own business. Taking this shift in my career was huge because it allowed me to work remotely well before the pandemic. And that allows me to make good use of my mornings and my nights. So for me, I used to be the person who would come home and like get on an elliptical at 9 o'clock at night and blare headphones to release stress because I'd be so wound up. Now I do early morning exercise and I do fun things, sculpting,
Mm.
all different things. I go to a gym with the trainer, and I know it sounds small, but it makes such a huge difference for me to be able to do that every day. And again, we do like these ridiculous things. I'm like, I can't even believe I'm moving my body like this, but I'm doing it. It's hilarious. It's fun.
Mhm.
And that is a great way for me to start my day. And I've always been an avid reader, except for the 11 years of my life that I was a lawyer in private practice. And that's how I end my day, is that I have to make time for storytelling. Stories are huge to me. Stories equate to play.
Well, I love those examples so much because I think you just hit on another thing a lot of people run into is like they're looking for answers in the wrong things. So they're thinking
Mm,
like, "Oh, I'm tired when I wake up. I need caffeine to change my energy, or I need alcohol to slow me down after a stressful day, or I need
yeah.
a sleeping pill to go to bed." And then you're creating this artificial thing that's fighting against your body
Mm-hmm.
rather than what you said of, oh no, I can exercise for energy
Yes.
and it builds energy. It doesn't take away from it. And I can read a book to wind down at the end of the day. I don't need
Yeah.
booze or a sleeping pill or
Right.
weed for that. Like
Right.
there are other ways for me to change my energy than to try to do that artificially and chemically. And I think that is sounds really healthy and a lot more sustainable for
Yeah, and
sure.
it's small things. Like I wish I had a great answer. Like I'd take like an improv class 3 times a week or something like that. Like
Yeah.
maybe one day, but just those small changes and setting boundaries in my life have gone a big way. I think that's it. I think that's really what it's about. What are you saying no to so you can say yes to yourself to avoid burning out?
Now, I have a tough question here for you, and you can, feel free to say I don't know on this one either. But
Mm,
you mentioned your child,
yes.
and I think that's a great way to think about it. Of like what advice you would give them, and I think both of us were raised as top performers. You want to get good grades,
Hmm.
you want to get into the best school, you want to get a good job, and all of that stuff. But I think now we're becoming more aware, and I hear in your voice a lot of sensitivity and care, not only for other people, but also for yourself. So I'm wondering what advice you would give your child or parents out there about how to raise someone in a way that has good, healthy, sustainable habits, but also still sort of, is a performing, contributing member of society. What are your
Well,
thoughts
I
there?
think that's a fantastic question because of two reasons. First, I was at an event last week and the icebreaker was, what advice would you give your younger, more or less experienced self? In 3 words or less. Immediately comes to mind for me, have more fun. Okay.
Mm.
So this is always on my mind because I've realized as a parent, and my son is 7, that you're modeling adulthood for them, right? So
Yeah.
I want to make sure that he sees me actually stop and be silly. And, if we're going to sing along to the radio on the way home from school, or, we make up a silly dance and do that at home, I want him to know that adults don't always have to be serious all the time. In fact, we shouldn't be. So I think it's about balance. Like, he sees me working. He knows that I work from home and his dad works too. And, in our household, though, we really do try to make space for the things that he enjoys: crafts,
Mm.
sports, all the sports, Mike. Let me tell you,
All the
all the
sports, the
sports.
boy. Yeah.
Oh, all the sports, but I'm trying, right? And part of that is, I'm not someone who played flag football and soccer like he does, but I'll get silly with it, and he sees me poke fun at myself. So I think it's just leading by example, frankly.
Sports is a hard one, and again, I feel like I may be going outside of your domain of expertise, but that's okay.
You might be.
My sister actually asked me this question this week, and I don't know how old your son is either, but I feel like her daughters are like 5 and 6 years old.
He's
Or 5
7.
and 7. Yeah, and it's like, well, some of these groups are already doing like year-round sports, and they're sucking the fun out of it. And
Yeah.
her oldest daughter's team got destroyed in the 7-year-old
Oh, no.
soccer, where there was other teams like they're dribbling with their outside foot and like doing passes and like one-touch
Oh.
goals into the back of the net. And
Oh.
her team's like still just running around having fun, like trying to figure out which direction on
Yeah.
the field they're going.
Yeah.
And they had fun. It was hilarious and fun to watch, and they had some successes. But I feel like they were just playing 2 different sports, and that's that great high performer thing too. Where I love you said like I can be silly, I can have fun with it. But in sports, there is a sort of built-in competition and people keeping scores too, which I think can be healthy and unhealthy. Have you thought about that at all, and whether you're just encouraging his natural progression, or if there is some sort of, I don't know,
Yeah.
performance?
Yeah, no, I feel like, Mike, you could have a whole separate podcast on youth sports, because that is a whole scene, I will say. And
Right.
all those kids that you were mentioning in your niece's game, I think that's all parent driven when kids are playing like that and so competitive. It's tough because for my son, who does excel in sports, he has articulated the desire to be more competitive. And he's actually said, I don't care if our soccer team gets killed. I want it to be a really good game. And that's coming off of a
Mhm.
kid who probably scored all 4 or 5 goals in the rec soccer game, because he's on a team with kids who haven't played before. So of course they're not going to be scoring like that, right? So
Right.
it's really hard to try and strike that balance. And there's a lot of learning lessons. And I don't know, ask me a year from now, after I've spent my year at travel baseball, just got on the travel baseball
Oh,
team,
doing that. Yeah.
trying out for travel soccer. So I don't know. I'll have more to say then.
I think that's fair. I think it's all a work in progress. You've shared that a couple of times, and I think
Yeah.
that's a great attitude to have. Like, we're all just making this up as we go along. I did want to share one funny anecdote, though, that one of the girls on
Yeah.
their team, we stopped counting. It must have been
Oh.
like 30-0. They got destroyed
Oh.
that bad, and really like only got like a couple of shots on like near the goal, not no goals for sure. And one of the girls on her team, after they sat down at the end, said, "Did we win?"
Oh.
And I was just like, "Oh my gosh,
Oh,
I
no.
love this girl now." You're like, "No, honey,
Oh,
not even
no.
close." That was
No.
fair.
But everyone had fun. There's some shirts I've seen on social media.
Yeah,
It's like, I just want both teams to have fun, that like moms will wear, right? Because this is such an
oh, I
issue.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is something to high performance. So I'll give you the last crack at it. I know you do a lot of speaking on this, and you get a lot of common questions and stuff. Is there
Yeah.
any other common misconceptions or messages that you like to share that we haven't covered yet?
We talked about not equating your identity and your worth with your work, and the whole athlete's mindset. Something else that I tell people that I think goes a long way is to just give yourself grace sometimes. Like, we beat ourselves up so much thinking we have to do all the things. We have to be perfect. We can't take any breaks. No rock can, remain unturned. Every I dotted, T cross. And that really does lead to burnout. Give yourself some grace. Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. And I think sometimes when people hear someone else say that, it gives them permission to actually implement that in their lives. The other thing I will say lastly is to use your voice. I do a lot of work with professional women, and oftentimes I think women are not great, and I've been guilty of this myself, of actually speaking up and advocating for themselves or saying no. So use your voice to set that boundary. You don't have to over explain, why you're leaving the office at that time, what you're doing, but don't just kind of get dumped on. Speak up and say no, because as I said before, when you say no to someone or something else, you're saying yes to yourself. So think of it that way. It's kind of my high level.
Yeah, I love that because for me, it's also about being yourself and doing what you know that you need. I think sometimes too many organizations and stuff set work schedules and the same thing for everybody. And I get
Yeah,
why, legally or in HR and stuff, you would need policies and a handbook and stuff like that. But in
right.
reality, people work at different times. Some people are more creative in the morning, or they can do more focused work in the afternoon, or however it is. And some people have kids and they're working from home and they get home from school at a different time. And you can be more flexible. I think giving yourself permission to do what you need to do your best work. We're not saying
Mhm.
don't do your best work and
Right.
just go mess around and be childish all day. We're saying
Yeah.
be yourself, be childlike, be your authentic, fun, playful self, and
Yeah.
do your best work. Do what it takes in order for you to sustainably do your best work over time.
Couldn't agree
And
more.
I think, yeah, a lot more companies and leaders need to be more forgiving. And there's always going to be more work, right? So it's not
Yeah.
like if you work 60 hours this week and you crush it, that there's going to
Yeah.
be no work next week. Like we did it. Oh, we
Right.
won. No, it's like, then they just want 70 hours the next week.
And you're
You
so
know, it's
spot
like,
on. I remember early in my career, a senior partner said to me once, "Oh, we go home when the work is done." And I'm like, "Well, when do I get to go home? I don't understand. There's always hours to build. There's always files." So it's really hard to say no. And by the way, I've been at different stages of my career in this profession. I was single and unmarried. Then I was married and I was childless. Then I was a new mother. And I really saw the differences in the people around me and how I was treated, and people in my similar situations were treated, right? It's like she could work late. She doesn't have any children to go home to. And I'm like, well, I just want to go home and like put my yoga pants on and sit on the couch. Like, why is that not valid? Right. So
right.
I think there's a lot to be said on that front, but that's why I say when you set your boundaries, you don't have to explain what you're doing, when you're leaving the office at the time you want to leave.
And there's hard choices and sacrifices too. Like I decided in my entertainment career in my 20s that, hey, I am young, I am single, I do have extra energy. I can go DJ in bars and clubs until 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But I knew I wouldn't want to do that when I'm married and 40 and
No,
stuff
it
that
sounds
is like,
awful. I can't
like,
stay up
yeah,
that late.
that's not what I wanted. So there is a time and a place to do different things, and giving
Right.
people and yourself those permissions to do those things is that
Right.
if you're not making enough money to survive and be comfortable and not
Mhm.
stressed, then maybe you need to work and get done and cover your basic needs. But at some point you have to decide what's enough and what's sustainable and what level of income you're going to be happy at. Because if you just keep going for more, that's not the answer.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Love it. All right. I feel like going for any more here would be greedy as well. So do you want to play a game?
Of course I do.
All right, here we go. We're going to do some movie trivia. You mentioned you like comedies. So I have 3 comedy questions. We surveyed 100 people for the answers. We're looking for the top answer in 2 out of these 3.
All right.
Number 1, name a movie starring Ryan Reynolds.
Van Wilder.
Van Wilder is a great one. That one comes in at number 2, though. Deadpool, number 1.
Ah,
Ryan Reynolds, was he in Ant-Man? Maybe that's the wrong answer, but
I don't know.
Green Lantern, The Proposal, and La La Land.
Okay.
All right, nice one there. A
Okay.
little bit harder here. Give me
Mm.
the title of a buddy cop movie.
Oh, I can't think of the title. That the movie with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. I can't think of the name of it.
Oh, yes.
Did I make the list?
No, I don't even think that one's on here.
It's not even on
We got
there.
a lot of classics here. We got 21 Jump Street, number 1.
Of
Bad
course.
Boys,
22 Jump
48
Street.
Hours, Beverly Hills Cop, Lethal Weapon, Rush Hour, Starsky and Hutch, and Turner and Hooch.
Oh, okay.
But that is, what was it? Was that the other guys?
Yes, that
Yes.
movie. That's right. And there was a 22 Jump Street, I think, at one point.
Yes, there was 2 as well. All right. I'm going to give you an easy one here.
Thank you.
Name a movie starring Seth Rogen.
This Is the End.
Yes, that one is on there. Number 5, we have Knocked Up, Pineapple Express, Super Bad, Long Shot. Oh, that was a more recent one. Then The Neighbors and The 40-Year-Old Virgin as well. So 2 out of 3. You did it.
All right.
You win.
I did it. All right.
Congratulations. You get a free 30-second commercial here for you and jmtspeaks.com. So how can we help you? How can you help us?
Oh, well, thank you so much. I've told you how much that you have helped me. So thank you for allowing me to make space to be a playful human. For me, please check me out at jmtspeaks.com. I help other professionals live their most authentic, best life through storytelling. I share what I have learned throughout my career on subjects like managing too much work and burnout, like we discussed today, while staying productive, saying no, setting boundaries, identifying your authentic self, quieting the imposter voice, all the topics that I'm still working on as well. I have a weekly newsletter. It's not your average newsletter. It is a lot of fun, might I say, with my weekly anecdotes. I review podcasts and books, and I am on LinkedIn at Jennifer Tibidow, as well as JMT Speaks LLC, on Instagram at JMT Speaks. So thank you for having me on. I hope to connect with your audience and see how I might be able to help them not just play, but of course, improve themselves as well.
I love it. Again, that's Jennifer Tibidow. Go check her out there at those channels she just mentioned. And until next time, I think for Playful Humans, I'm going to go back to the quiz. That's one of the things that Jennifer and I talked about is finding your playful personality. It doesn't mean you have to be a clown, or you have to be good at sports, or you have to be a gamer or something. You can do any of those. You can be an explorer. You can like social activities. You can have the most fun playing board games. It doesn't matter. You got to find out what is best for you. You can do that at playfulhumans.com. See ya. Live for today. Keep on chasing the sunshine.